Helluva Boss Episode 8, Queen Bee, is the 8th episode of Helluva Boss and the finale of Season 1. I did not expect to see this episode at all. While I did suspect that it was being held back due to legal issues, I just thought that it would never get resolved and eventually get lost on the cutting room floor in the sea of unused projects, and I was kinda disappointed. After the cliffhanger of Episode 7, I was really compelled by Blitzø and Stolas' dynamic. I wanted to see how they would ultimately resolve it, or part ways. And when Season 2, Episode 1, The Circus released, I was hoping for it to carry on that storyline, but it didn't. In fact, I feel like it made their relationship objectively worse by re-establishing it so that it dates back to being childhood friends, which just makes it unnecessarily weird. I also didn't like how the episode completely butchered Stella's character, because it would have been an interesting perspective if she was actually nice before and only acted how she did after because Stolas cheated on her. And it would have been a more realistic depiction of what divorce is really like. But no, this episode just throws it out the window and tells you she was just evil the entire time and completely deserved it. Because of this, Octavia's struggle with her mom and dad's divorce is harder to empathize with, because Octavia acts as if her mother and father are equally kind, but it's hard to believe that since we only ever see Stolas being kind and Stella being cruel. And then Episode 2, Seeing Stars, carried on their relationship as if nothing happened at all. And Episode 4 made even less sense because Blitz completely rejected Stolas at the end, and now he really cares about him all of a sudden. It's not enough to consider it out of character for Blitz, but it just felt like this hugely significant event between the two characters that threatened the end of their relationship was just brushed to the side. At that point, I was willing to give up all hope in this plotline being resolved, and I decided to move on. Until a miracle happened.
Hey, I'm what you need, I'm what you want, I got it all.
After almost 2 years of being delayed, Episode 8 finally arrived, and it was absolutely worth the wait. Without question, I can definitively say, this is my favorite Helluva Boss episode of the entire series. When I say favorite, I don't necessarily mean that it's objectively the best, although that could be argued for. I'm not going to say with full confidence that this is the highest quality episode in the whole show, because it certainly has flaws. For example, I thought Luna's decision to change her mind and go back to the party happened too quickly and wasn't really driven by anything other than this random wolf guy who showed up. And I feel like the trailer made the scene feel more natural than the episode itself. I also think this episode doesn't progress the plot as significantly as other episodes like X's and O's, and I think the song is just a tiny bit too long, but don't worry, I will get back to that later. But despite its flaws, this is still my favorite Helluva Boss episode by far, and with all my small complaints already out of the way, today I'm going to go over the various aspects of this episode that I absolutely loved. And yes, this episode finally bridged the gap between Blitz and Stolas' relationship in such a subtle but satisfying way. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. Okay, do we even need to talk about how this episode looks? Usually I don't use cuss words on this channel, but this episode is fucking gorgeous. Yeah, okay, we gotta talk about it. I love everything about the designs in this episode, down to the characters, clothing, and overall atmosphere. I like how they are able to incorporate a much larger variety of different hellhounds than we saw before, but still making sure that they didn't stick out. And I unironically love this character's design because this is exactly what you would expect someone who's spoiled and sassy to look like if they were a hellhound. I think Luna's outfit looks great, and maybe that's because I'm a simp, but I don't care. It's simplistic, but I think it's a perfect symbolic representation of Luna's shy personality around people she actually cares about, but still with a hint of the Luna we've known throughout the rest of the show. Okay, I'm starting to get into her character, I'm getting ahead of myself. Beelzebub's house looks amazing. It's a perfect blend between the honey aspect and royalty, and since Bee is one of the 7 rulers of hell, that makes sense. The elaborate structures, the hexagon designs, the lava lamps, and the ever-changing colors really bring the party atmosphere to the fullest extent. And then of course we have... oh my... okay, I'm saving this for later. But overall, I just love everything about how this episode looks, and I would definitely want to see more from the Ring of Gluttony. Another thing this episode absolutely nailed for me is how they wrote Luna's character. From Episode 3, Spring Broken, we learned that Luna's aggressive nature is less of a natural personality and more as a way of covering up her shyness, and her awkward side really shows around people she doesn't know or genuinely has feelings towards, like Vortex. And this episode really brought that aspect of her personality out. At the end of Episode 7, I was kind of disappointed to see that note from Luna saying she went to a party with Vortex, and at the time it felt like they just took a compelling personnel challenge that Luna had to overcome and just swept it under the rug as if she was able to solve it immediately. Thankfully, this episode is a direct continuation of that by dialing up her awkward personality to 11 and at the same time making her so much more relatable. You know, we've all had that time where we're invited to a place and everybody is just a total stranger who's already separated off into their own friend group. while we only have one friend there, so we're just forced to awkwardly follow them around with nobody else to talk to. And then when Loona tries to jump into one conversation, you can really feel that anxiety of what it's like to talk to new people, and especially ones that immediately get off on the wrong foot. And then Loona gets an extra punch in the gut when she realizes that it's basically impossible to rizz up Vortex when he's with the literal princess of gluttony. And then of course, after constantly trying to make more friends but to no avail and just standing around aimlessly, we feel like a burden to the party rather than someone who's actually included, and so we feel the urge to just leave. The part where it starts to become unrealistic is when Loona then changes her mind quicker than Captain Marvel changes from fighting Skrulls to Kree, but again that's a minor issue, and it doesn't ruin the episode for me whatsoever. I also love how Loona holds an inner resentment towards Bee even though she's done nothing inherently wrong, which I mean, everybody tends to hold a grudge against others who are more popular and wealthy. Overall, I think that her character is just written so well in this episode, and it makes me love her all the more. And also, I gotta point out this facial expression, this is just absolutely golden. This episode also did a fantastic job of building the relationship between Loona and Blitz. I love how Blitz was in complete despair crying on the couch, and then when Loona calls him, he just immediately pulls up to the house before Loona even reaches the driveway, in typical Blitz fashion. We've had times where Loona came so close to calling Blitz her dad but then caught herself, but here during Blitz's drinking competition with Bee, she just straight up says with full confidence,
Yeah, that's my dad!
as she cheers him on, and it's honestly one of the most heartwarming things to see. Followed by,
I'll be there, Dad.
it really amplifies the significance of what Loona tells to Octavia in Seeing Stars, now having a much more genuine appreciation for Blitz. But Loona isn't the only well-written character in this episode. Okay, now it's time to talk about Bee. Oh my god, Bee's character is amazing in every single respect, and undoubtedly my favorite character of Season 1. Call me a simp, call me a furry, Bee is my favorite goddamn character of Season 1. She is my new favorite person. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but the writing behind Bee's character is just absolutely genius, and I don't know how they managed to write characters so unironically kind-hearted and entertaining. One reason I really like Bee as a character is that she's so humble despite being in a position of absolute power. She is literally the princess of gluttony and one of the 7 most powerful beings in all of hell. She lives in a large, luxurious palace, has enormous wealth, and she's unconditionally praised by everybody. And on top of that, her character is set up to be the literal embodiment of a queen bee who provides for everyone only in exchange for more power, and she has the ability to just manifest food and drinks out of thin air. You can take a lot of what Bee says to Loona out of context and it'll sound like she's talking down to her, and whenever Bee's anger reaches a limit, she transforms into this giant demonic version of herself. Throughout the entire first time watching this episode, I was fully expecting them to make this dumb, last-minute twist to shove in an unnecessary conflict where, oh no, Bee was secretly evil the whole time. I didn't see that coming. No way. But thankfully, that never happened. Turns out, Bee is just a really chill and caring person. I think her position of royalty amplifies her kindness because she values and respects everyone equally despite having such a high status, and she's extremely generous without expecting anything in return. The episode gives her the perfect opportunity to be patronizing towards Loona and to be jealous of Blitz beating her in the competition, but she just isn't. She wholeheartedly wants to be friends with Loona, and she fully accepts her defeat against Blitz. When she asks for Loona to take Blitz home, it comes from a place of genuine care for everyone else, and after transforming into her large demonic form out of anger, she immediately feels bad about it. This episode just had endless opportunities to turn Beelzebub into the generic one-time evil villain that does evil things because they're evil, but Bee's character goes against all of them, and it's just such a great thing to see. So a lot of people find it weird that Beelzebub, the princess of gluttony, is in a public relationship with Vortex, who comes from the absolute lowest tier in the social hierarchy of hell. And a lot of people are saying that this makes absolutely no sense at all. But I still think that this strongly correlates with Bee's character because again, she values people based on their actual traits rather than their social status. So it only makes sense that she would date a hellhound and completely disregard how society views him, and that adds to her likability. And of course I have to give credit to Keisha for the voice actor of Bee. Every single line is delivered perfectly with so much vibrance and energy, and she's so good at seamlessly transitioning between a patronizing and a kind-hearted tone of voice that you're actually unsure as to whether she's good or evil on the first watch. And oh my god, I love Bee's character design. I don't know how they managed to animate lava in her hairstyle and her tail, but it looks so good. I actually prefer her being a mix between insect and canine because I feel like any attempt to make her look entirely like a bee would just be weird. I don't think her character goes one scene without her 2 pairs of arms constantly showing different expressions at the same time. Like, they made full use of that, and it's amazing attention to detail. And the color choice of her design is just perfect. And I also love how the different variations of colors change based on the lighting, and it's just absolutely stunning. Vortex. God damn, how did you pull this? Forget Blitz and Veroska, Vortex's Riz is unparalleled. You know, the biggest injustice VivziePop could ever do to the show, aside from ending it, is turning B into a villain. That is just the one-way ticket to completely butchering her character. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about B. There's definitely nothing else that's good about her in this episode.
Hey, I'm what you need, I'm what you want, I got it all.
You don't need to be an expert to realize that this song fucking slaps. The lyrics are great, and Rochelle Diamante does an outstanding performance singing Cotton Candy, and they could not have found a better replacement. And the visuals, oh my god, the visuals. This is the most gorgeous looking scene in the entire series, hands down. The vibrant colors and fluid animation are just, oh my god, it's too much. For a very small number of songs that I listen to, they have a melody that just somehow hits that sweet spot that makes me want to listen to it 20 more times back to back, and this song is one of them. I just love everything about B's character and the song, and they will go down as some of my favorite aspects of Helluva Boss. But there's still one more thing from this episode that I want to talk about, and it's something that most people consider to be one of the episode's problems. The thing I want to talk about is how this episode handles Blitz and Stolas' relationship. Stolas actually does not appear in this episode at all, and he and Blitz never have a conversation to reconcile their conflict. But, and I cannot praise the writers enough for this because it's so subtle yet so genius, where they managed to perfectly bridge the gap of their relationship between episode 7 and season 2 through a single line of dialogue when Blitz says this.
I'm gonna die alone, aren't I? Just a wrinkly, old, weathered waste.
This line completely recontextualizes Blitz and Stolas' relationship moving forward, and it fixes all of the problems I had with their relationship in season 2. It's this one realization that causes Blitz to suddenly have a reinvigorated care for Stolas because he wants Stolas to be there for him just like Loona. It now explains why Blitz seemingly goes from full-out rejection to being Stolas' knight in shining armor and getting genuinely shooken when he finds out about Stolas getting hurt. This idea was actually touched on in episode 6, Truth Seekers, but firstly, that episode is total garbage and something I will go into greater detail in a separate video. And secondly, the message in episode 6 gets kind of thrown out the window since Blitz pushes Stolas away in episode 7. Honestly, one of the things that worries me the most about shows like Helluva Boss and Has Been Hotel getting added to big streaming platforms is that the writing will start to get altered and ruined for the sake of being more family friendly or other corporate needs. The way episode 8 shows Blitz not wanting to die alone just goes to show the power of being able to literally make other episodes better in a single line of subtle dialogue, and it's something I'm afraid will get abandoned if a large corporation takes these shows over, and God help me if they get added to Disney+. But that is all I have to say about Helluva Boss Episode 8 Queen Bee. Helluva Boss is one of my favorite shows of all time, and this episode for me is the epitome of visual spectacle and good writing used to the absolute fullest extent, and it just blows my mind how good it is. I've never made content on VivziePop's work before, but I've been a fan ever since I first watched Has Been Hotel, and this episode was just so good that I had to make a video on it. I think VivziePop and everyone else who contribute to the show do an amazing work, and the show is really the gift that keeps on giving. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day.